want to get to the issue of electability and the ideological difference within the Democratic Party. Good. Senator Sanders, the cost of your agenda. Yesterday, you released information about how you will pay for your major proposals, but not all of your details are clear. You've proposed more than $50 trillion in new spending. You've said Medicare for all will cost $30 trillion. But you can only explain how you'll pay for just about half of that. Can you do the math for the rest of us?
How many hours do you have?
2.
That's the problem.
No, it's not the problem. All right, let's talk about Medicare for all. I'm sure you're familiar with a new study that just came out of Yale University, published in Lancet magazine, one of the prestigious medical journals in the world. You know what it said? Medicare for all will lower healthcare costs in this country by $450 billion a year and save 68,000 lives of people who otherwise would have died. What we need to do is to do what every other major country on earth does, guarantee health care to all people, not have thousands of separate insurance plans which are costing us some $500 billion a year to administer. Our plan, we have laid out options all over the place. One of the options is a 7.5% payroll tax on employers, which will save them substantial sums of money.
Bernie, let me respond to this.
Does the math add up?
No, the math does not add up. In fact, just on 60 Minutes this weekend, he said he wasn't going to rattle through the nickels and the dimes. Well, let me tell you how many nickels and dimes we're talking about. Nearly $60 trillion. Do you know how much that is for all of his programs? That is 3 times the American economy, not the federal government, the entire American economy. The Medicare for All plan alone, page 8 clearly says that it'll kick 149 million Americans off their current health insurance in 4 years. That is true. As one prominent Democrat once said, we should pay attention to where the voters of this country are, Bernie. That prominent Democrat was Barack Obama a few months ago. And I think that's what we should do. They are not with you on spending nearly $60 trillion. What I think we should do is make things more affordable, nonprofit public option, make sure we're paying for long-term care better, take on the pharmaceuticals like you and I have done together, and do something for the people of America instead of a bunch of broken promises that sound good on bumper stickers.
Mr. Steyer,
I think we're talking about
We'll get to you, Mr. Sanders.
Let's talk about it.
Can I say something?
Look, first of all,
Bernie, let me go.
Tom, I think she was talking about my plan, not yours.
I think we were talking about math, and it doesn't take 2 hours to do the math, because let's talk about what it adds up to. Well, we don't. Let's talk about math indeed. Okay, so here's the math. No, here's the math.
Excuse me, can I respond to the
doing nothing is what will happen.
Senator Sanders, you're allowed a quick response, and we would like to allow the other candidates.
Moderator, guys.
Senator Sanders?
Moderator, is it my turn?
This helps a lot, doesn't it?
You have been name-checked. You are allowed to respond. Okay.
What the Health and Human Services have said in analyzing healthcare costs, what recent Yale study has said is that your program would cost some $50 trillion over a 10-year period. We would continue to pay, in some cases, 10 times more for the same exact prescription drugs. What every study out there, conservative or progressive, says, Medicare for all will save money. Ours will cost about $45 billion, not $60 trillion.
No, Bernie, I was talking about...
We would like, Senator Sanders, we would like to bring Mr. Steyer in on this conversation. Mr. Steyer, please.
I was talking about all your programs.
Excuse me, Amy. This conversation shows a huge risk for the Democratic Party. We are looking at a party that has decided that we're either going to support someone who's a democratic socialist or somebody who has a long history of being a Republican. And let me say that I got into this race because I wanted to fight for economic justice, for racial justice, and to make sure we had climate justice for the American people. And I am scared. If we cannot pull this party together, if we go to one of those extremes, we take a terrible risk of re-electing Donald Trump.
Thank you, Mr. Steyer.
And that is something, I still have some time, and let me just say this. That is a risk that will hurt the American people in a way that none of us on this stage should be willing to risk.
Thank you. Let's keep this topic going, Mayor Pete.
So let's do some math. Senator Sanders at one point said it was going to be 40 trillion, then it was 30, then it was 17. It's an incredible shrinking price tag. At some point has said it is unknowable to even see what the price tag would be. Now there are new numbers going. I'll tell you exactly what it adds up to. It adds up to 4 more years of Donald Trump, Kevin McCarthy as Speaker of the House, and the inability to get the Senate into Democratic hands. The time has come for us to stop acting like the presidency is the only office that matters. Not only is this a way to get Donald Trump reelected, we got a House to worry about. We got a Senate to worry about. And this is really important. Look, if you want to keep the House in Democratic hands, you might want to check with the people who actually turned the House blue. 40 Democrats who are not running
41.
on your platform. They are running away from your platform as fast as they possibly can. I want to send those Democrats back to the United States House. Let's listen to them when they say that they don't want to be out there defending Senator Sanders.
Thank you, Mayor
Whoa.
Buttigieg. Vice President Biden, please.
I guess the only way you do this is jump in and speak twice as long as you should. Here's the deal. Look, a guy is a friend of mine down here named Fritz Hollings. He passed away. He said, you want to know what a man in a room will do? Look what they've done. Look what they've done. You talk about concerned about race. Well, my good friend on the end of this platform, he in fact bought a system that was a private prison system after he knew that, in fact, what happened was they hogtied young men in prison here in this state. They, in fact, made sure that in Georgia they did not have health care for the people who were being held. They, in fact, went on and he said, after he knew that, he bought it, and then he said he was proud of his accomplishment. You talk about what we're talking about with Bernie. Bernie, in fact, hasn't passed much of anything. The fact of the matter is...
But I get to answer that. I get to answer that.
Look, the fact is, here's the deal. I'm not out of time. You spoke over time, and I'm going to talk. Here's the deal. The fact of the matter is, look at what's happening here. Look at what's happening here. We have to win the Senate back. And by the way, I went into all of those races that got 41 new Democrats. The majority of them are supporting me for president.
And Mr. Vice President, I have to allow... Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Wait a second.
Mr. Mayor, you're allowed to respond.
I bought stock in a prison company thinking they'd do a better job, and I investigated and I sold it.
Okay.
Stop.
You knew when you bought it they'd done that.
I get to answer this question. And in fact, since then, I've worked to end the use of private prisons in my home state, and we've ended it. I've started a bank to support Black ownership of businesses, women ownership of businesses, and Latino owners of businesses, because this financial service industry is prejudiced. I have worked tirelessly on this, and you know I'm right. You wrote the crime bill.
Where we come from, that's called Tommy Come Lately.
There are other people here. Put hundreds of thousands of young Black and Latino men in prison.
Okay. Let me say something.
Thank you.
There's something going on here.
Mr. Steyer.
I have worked for racial justice completely, and that is an absolute unfair statement.
All I know is
Tommy Come Lately.
if we spend the next 4 months tearing our party apart, we're going to watch Donald Trump spend the next 4 years tearing our country apart.
Look,
so my argument here is that we need to get back to what's happening right now. We have a clear choice of who's going to lead this party. And I am the only one in the New Hampshire debate when asked if we had a problem with a socialist leading the ticket that raised my hand. I like Bernie. We came in together to the Senate, but I do not think that this is the best person to lead the ticket. And if you want to talk about getting things done and make a comparison, according to Vanderbilt University in Tennessee, last Congress, I was the most effective Democrat in the U.S. Senate on 15 metrics. Bernie and Elizabeth were in the bottom half. It matters. It matters if you can actually get things done. It is not just who talks the best, who actually gets things done. And especially with the African-American community, there have been a lot of broken promises.